It's not often that I get to introduce someone that is literally just a good friend of mine who I've learned so much from over the years. We've paced each other's careers, and he's had a big impact on our clients. He's not going to pitch to you today. He's going to talk to you today about some of the things that he's learned and things that we think will be notable for you guys. So if you would, please give it up for my dear friend, Ted Rubin, CEO of ActivEngage.
Hi, everyone. I really appreciate you having me here and introducing me so nicely. I'm going to talk about something today that is very important to me and to a lot of the dealers that I've been speaking to, and it has to do with bad leads and how I think that the way that they're being treated or the lack of understanding about what is a bad lead is kind of undermining a lot of the profitability of dealerships. So I want you to ask yourselves the question, which is, how much do you think you're spending currently wasting time going after leads that are these bad leads, these leads that are never going to close? So I want you to think about that as we're going through this, because dealerships are literally spending billions of dollars on leads to come to the dealership to get volume, and these leads, many of them, are never going to close. So we're going to talk about what is a bad lead, what is the true cost of having a bad lead and your ability to address those leads, and what makes a good lead. And a spoiler alert, it's ROI, just so you know, but we'll talk about that as we go. Some dealers say that they don't get enough leads, and I think what they're really saying is that they're not getting enough sales, and that's a very different thing. I've talked to a lot of very successful dealers, and they say, well, we're getting enough leads, I'm just not getting enough closes, and that's really the more common aspect of what's going on, is that they're not addressing the leads effectively, or the leads that they're getting, they just really don't have an opportunity to close. So this in itself is essentially an ROI issue that needs to be looked at by dealerships. You're facing a bottleneck when you're just looking at leads. And it seems to be the topic of conversation at most dealerships, leads, volume of leads. I need more and more. And if you have a BDC or if you have a select group of salespeople that are handling these leads, then you're going to end up with a bottleneck. And you're just going to have so many that are coming in that you're starting to not spend the time that's necessary and not spend the focus and having the right conversations with these, and you start to get very redundant and you start to not customize these conversations. And that both spends time unnecessarily with leads that are never going to close, and then you're also not focusing on getting leads completed that really should close, but they need that personalization, they need that customization. So you're diminishing your team's ability to get these closed when you reach this bottleneck. So you should be looking at ways and at companies that can accelerate your ability to get a lead through to the actual end, because the goal here is actually to close a sale, not to get a lead. And so just as an example, I wanted to bring up, if you were an average dealership, and I have like a bibliography to show you all the statistics and where these came from. They're usually documented here. But for an average dealership that's getting about 500 leads a month for a very average volume of conversion, which is about 7%, you're looking a little less than $1.5 million in actual car sales. That's based on about a $42,000 car sale. Okay? And if you were able to affect that fairly nominally, if you're only 3 points higher, which is still right in the middle, right in the average of what dealerships are actually closing leads at, then with 400 leads, you would actually be closing at 10%. So you'd be close to 210, almost $250,000 more in total revenue. You're probably increasing your profitability on those as well because of the speed to conversion, and you're only doing this with 400 leads. So that's 20% less than with the 500. And that has to do with focus. It has to do with your ability and your intent to not just process a lead and do it the same way across everything. It's making sure that the leads that you're getting are effective, that the customers are moving through the process. You want to be able to increase revenue if you can with these leads. Often you're able to do that with better leads. But the more important thing is that there is a path to actually getting this closed. And so when you're processing these, even with a smaller amount, the numbers and the profitability beyond just the general revenue is ramping up significantly because your ROI on that lead is now significantly higher. So I think what happens with a lot of dealerships starting to look at this is that dealers just get on autopilot. So dealerships are like little cities. And you have a parts department, you have a service department, you have sales, you have accounting, you have finance. There's so many things to deal with that many dealers just are like, well, I need to sell more cars, so all I need is more leads. And that's not really what should be happening. It should be focused very significantly on how are you handling these leads and what are the leads that you're getting. Before you even change anything about how you're handling leads, unless you're not closing anything, it should be much more significantly focused on which are the leads that I'm getting are converting at the highest rate. Because, I mean, we're a vendor and we have leads that we supply to, and it has more to do with your team and how they're interacting with them. It's not just ramping up all of your leads so that you have more across the board, just so that you can get more sales. It should be pushed back to the vendor. To some extent, you want vendors that are supplying more services and getting them further through the funnel up front, so that by the time that it gets to you at the dealership, that you have a bigger opportunity to close them. It's a really important point of focus to make sure that the leads that you're getting have the ability to close. And a lot of them don't. We see a lot of companies and a lot of dealerships that have just very poor opportunity, even with the best intent from dealers. And of course, if you're a great salesperson, then you can sell, theoretically, you could sell anything. But on average, you should be able to be much more effective doing this. So that initial point of contact, and there are so many different types of contacts that you have at the dealership, that should be where a lot of the impact of getting the customer engaged, getting the customer through the process is actually handled, and it's moving the customer a little bit further down the funnel before you at the dealership ever talk to them, or before anybody actually at the dealership ever talks to them. It's your job as a dealer to commit to this success and making sure that you don't fall into this category where you're just having autopilot and you're not paying attention to, on an ongoing basis, are these leads converting? What's my ROI on these leads? Do I need to look for other vendors, even in the same category, to supply those leads to me? So this is, there were a few places that we saw these statistics. This is from Cirrus Decisions, that about 40% of the leads on average are just bad leads, meaning they're not going to close. And your employees are spending about 20% of their actual salary chasing after leads that will never close. It doesn't matter what they do. And you have to think about that for a second. Why are there bad leads? So when I was selling, or the first job that I had gotten into when I got into a dealership, I remember the guy that hired me shook my hand and he said, "Congratulations, now you're working at a dealership. Everybody that you know, all your friends and your family are going to want to come to you and get a deal because everybody's looking for a car. 1 out of 3 people are looking for a car at any given time." What you got to understand is that while they'll be looking for a car and they may even be submitting leads, that doesn't mean that they're going to buy anytime soon. Almost everybody that I talk to who knows that I'm in the automotive industry that's also not in the automotive industry, which actually that's very few people, they are always willing to talk to me about vehicles or what they're looking for or what's new or what's different and how they can purchase those things. Are they actively looking to buy a car? No. Have they submitted leads even as I'm talking to them? Because I've started to ask this question as I was writing this presentation, and the answer is yeah, they are submitting leads. They're not moving through any process. They're not actually getting anything at that time. They're not going to sell their car, or they're not going to look to buy a new car for another year, year and a half. But they're interested to know and they want to talk about it. So they are submitting leads. You're spending your time going after someone who has no intent to do anything for quite a long time. So it's important to understand why 40% of these leads are actually bad. There's no maturation as they navigate through the process of whatever the vendor is, whatever the lead provider is that's supplying the lead. There's no intent from the customer to be able to do anything. There's nothing that's cultivating the customer to actually feel like they're in the sales funnel. And that's really significant. You really want to be pushing back on these vendors to do that. If you were in the automotive industry, even remotely near how long I've been in the automotive industry, then you would remember back around 2000, there were so many companies that were supplying leads that it was brand new that you could get digital leads and that customers would submit stuff online. It was the most bizarre thing, and you didn't have to spend seemingly a ton of money to be able to get a lot of leads, and you could follow up with them. So dealers were just ravenously taking on as many leads as they could possibly get. So you started to end up with lead providers like AT&T and other systems. I think I was talking to our head of marketing the other day, and she was saying, yeah, you used to be able to get them from Pizza Hut. So you get car leads from AT&T and Pizza Hut. And after about a year or two of this, dealers started to go, these are really crappy leads. These people, they may be there, but they're not really converting. And what they were doing at some point, some of the bigger lead providers were actually going out and going to other websites and buying their leads and saying, let me just include those with all of our leads. We'll supply the most leads. That's what dealers want. That's not what dealers want. Or that's not what you should be looking to do. And I see pieces of that coming back now, which is why we're having this presentation, because it's not about the volume of leads that you're getting. It's purely about your ability to move them down the funnel, and it's about the vendor's ability to be able to move them down the funnel. Otherwise, you're just, all this money that you're putting into personnel to go after every one of these leads, to do it equitably the way that you want them to, or you're trying to make a connection, it's just lost, it's just wasted. The real cost of these bad leads is lack of focus. So your people in going after these, in trying to address all of the leads, is starting to be, okay, well, do I think that this person's going to convert? Do I really want to spend the time on doing this? Do I have enough time to give this lead the same kind of consideration that I'm giving this lead? And that's the last thing that you want. You don't want your own people to start cherry picking what they think is going to be a good lead. This needs to be a dealer decision, and it needs to be actually decided about the vendors themselves. Why would you want to put a bunch of stuff in front of someone where you're going to get 1 out of 100? Or 1 out of 1,000 that are going to close, and you're still going to have to go after and follow up with 1,000 people. And think about the extent of what that is. It's the immediate communication, it's the future communication, it's all the little touch points that you're going to have. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be doing this across the board. Not every customer is going to close. But there's so much effort that goes into it in general already that the last thing you want to do is be pushing in and trying to have to do this just for every single lead that comes in if you haven't really quantified the companies that are going to be effective for you. And I don't have any particular company agenda. That's got nothing to do with it. And there's not a universal best or worst company to do this. It's going to be regional. It's going to depend on your brand. It's going to depend on your dealership. But you should be looking at these things to be able to figure out what's going to be the best thing for you. Otherwise, it's just going to bleed time from your personnel. It's going to frustrate them. And it's going to make them so they're not incredibly focused. And it's going to infiltrate other areas of the things that they're doing in their business. Many good prospects are going to get insufficient focus and insufficient time from your staff, or from your people, or from you, if they're having to go after all of these types of leads all the time, and all you're looking to do is get more and more leads because you feel like you need more sales, instead of cultivating the best providers and cultivating the way that you're going after them. And while, yes, you could probably close, as I said earlier, most of these leads, or some more of these leads, the amount of effort that you would have to put into it, it just isn't worth it. It's too much effort, because there are plenty of good providers out there where you can be super successful getting this done. Put the effort mostly back on the lead provider to do that. So let's go back and look at what customers do to be able to determine what we would look at, what you should be looking at, to be able to pick providers that are best for your store. So Customers spend about 6.5, 7 hours, this one's 7+ hours. They spend that much time researching vehicles, dealerships, information about the purchase before they ever initiate contact. So think about that. So 7 hours is a lot of time just to sit and look up a vehicle and try to verify this is what I want. Does it have all the things that I want? What colors does it come in? What other things do I need to understand about that particular vehicle? So where are they doing that? They're not doing it on your website. And they're rarely doing it on the OMs. They're mostly going to Google. I mean, most people, myself included, when I turn on my computer, one of the first screens that I get is the Google search screen. It's like, hey, I'm here. I know you're going to be looking for something. Here I am. They're not going to start navigating around looking for specific websites, and they certainly don't have your dealership's website programmed in as their homepage when they open up a browser. It's probably Google. And so they're going to take the easiest path, and they're going to do the most efficient thing that they can do. And if they're looking for a vehicle today, they're going to go, oh, I'm looking for a four-door that is this color and has these features. What's out there? How many of them are at this price? What else can I get on them? Which ones have these features that I want? That's all happening on Google or Yahoo or whatever search engines that they're going to look for. So they know by the time that they get to you, by the time that they actually go and submit a lead through your website, through a marketplace website, because of a marketing propaganda piece that you've actually put out, a campaign that's out there, whatever it may be, they already know, I generally want to buy this car. They've already got it in their head. The decision's already been shaped by every single click that they've made up to this point. Now they're looking to engage with you. Okay, so at that point, they've already should have moved significantly through the funnel. If you're on a marketplace, it should have given them enough information. It should have given them comparisons about other vehicles. It should have given them an idea of pricing, where it's only showing what's in an inventory on those sites. If they're coming to your website to do it, well, then you know that they're looking to buy from you. You're regional, right? So they looked for your website. They didn't search nationally and go, oh, this website looks good. I'll check that dealer. They're looking locally to figure out, oh, this is where I'm probably going to buy the car, and I know that I already want this car. What they're trying to find out when they ultimately submit the lead is, all right, now that I know what I want and I know where I'm going to be able to get it, what am I going to be treated like there? What's that experience going to be? How am I going to work with them, or how are they going to work with me? Do they really want my business or not? So this may scare you, but I would tell you that today, walk-ins are no longer leads. These are sales that you have the opportunity to lose. Because people are spending so much time navigating around looking for information, by the time that they physically come into the store, especially if they have an appointment, they're committed. They've already decided. They've done all their research. They probably reached out through one of these other lead providers before, or they've reached out directly to you in your store. And now they're physically walking into your store. That's a lot of commitment, especially from the XYZ generation and the way that environmentally that people are going around and doing research and actually buying vehicles today. So if they're actually getting up, getting dressed, coming down to the dealership, walking in, saying, hey, I'm interested in something, that's a sale that you have an opportunity to lose at that point. If you go back to the late 90s and early 2000s, we had greeters. Why do we have greeters? Because it was someone there to make sure that the customer was welcomed into the store, that they were accepted, that there was a connection. You're trying to make this personal connection with the customer so that they feel empowered, so that they have trust, and so that they feel like they're going to be satisfied with the interaction that they're going to have with you. That's why they had greeters then. Now, that entire process is just moving online. When they come into the store, I am telling you that that's just a sale that needs to be made. All of these other touch points that you have, and there's so many different touch points that are out there, They're cultivating an impression or a perception from the customer, as we just talked about with the greeters, about who you are and about how you're going to handle them as a customer. And so you need to pay attention to the way that you interact and the way that the providers that they're utilizing are interacting. Again, I'm not picking out any type of these. There's lots of different style or types of leads that you can get, and there may be different ones that are more effective for you or less effective for you regionally, but they should be helping the customer to make an understanding of what it is that they're trying to accomplish, that they feel like they understand. The more you can make them feel empowered and competent and knowledgeable about what they're doing, the more they're going to be tied to you or to that vehicle that's sitting on a marketplace site for you, right? The way that you're going to differentiate yourself mostly from other dealers, especially in new cars, is not the brand. All the cars are the same. It's going to be how you deal with them, who you are as a dealer, what you're offering the customer to be more effective. It really has little to do where the lead came from. It's got more to do with how quickly it's going to be able to migrate further through the funnel to be more effective downwind so that you and your people are able to communicate with them, and you need to make sure that that communication is much more fluid, much more about the customer, much more intentional toward moving them through the sale and into making that connection with the particular customer. I think that a lot of dealers are not putting enough emphasis on the digital conversations that they're having. And I'm not talking about chat and text. Again, we're talking about the entire breadth of all these types of leads. Their focus is still on the walk-in. But the way that you're going to get them into the store and what's going to drive them to the store are the vendors that you choose, the communications that you have before they come in, the phone calls that you take when you actually take a phone call from these customers to drive them into the store. Buyers still indicate the Cox customer journey that comes out every single year talks about things that customers are looking for. One of the things that customers are still looking for is that they indicate that they really want to still interact with the sales teams. They still want to test drive the vehicle, so that's another reason why they're coming into the store as well. But they do want to have this communication where they feel like they're getting to know the people that are going to be selling them the cars. The first experience, that's just the difference, has shifted from being primarily when they walk into the store. Certainly there used to be phone calls as well, but it shifted from there to actually being to this interaction online. And so when you receive leads from these different lead providers, your email communication back, if you're reaching out via phone, if you're reaching out through chat and text or through other campaigns to follow up with this customer, you want to make sure that it's fluid. You want to make sure that you're focused on the customer. You want to make sure that you're listening to the customer. They need to feel seen and heard, and that's what's going to make them feel good about actually purchasing a vehicle from you. And that's one of the most significant things. I think it's important to understand that, you know, the customer, when they're purchasing a car, and this used to be a statement that they used to say to me all the time when I was in the stores is, you know, it's a very emotional purchase buying a car. You're spending $42,000 or more on buying a car. You know you have to get it. It's something that's going to transpire almost no matter what if you live in any kind of city where you're going to need, where there's non-public transportation. So you're going to do your research. They're going to do 7 hours of research online. Is it about the spend of the money, or is there some other asset that you as a dealer are going to be able to impose on this customer to make them want to buy from you? The primary thing is going to be how they feel about buying from you. It's that feeling. It's the emotional aspect of buying the car from you that's going to impact more than anything else whether they're going to buy from you or not. That piece is something that you can tap into. That's one of the few things that you can. Statistics are statistics about the vehicles. Stats, the offers, the cars that you have on the lot, they have little to do at the point that they're actually interacting with you, specifically when they come into the store, with whether or not they're going to buy that car. If they're there, and even before they get there, as you're trying to move them down the sales funnel, then it's really got massively more to do with, do I feel like I like this person? Do I feel like I want to buy it? Do I feel like they're being earnest and trustworthy to me? If you had a friend that wanted to buy a car from you, it would probably, I think that most of you would say that it would probably be easier to sell them a car because you can kind of cut through a lot of that. You don't have to explain, hey, you can trust me, I'm your friend. What I'm going to tell you is true. Why would I lie to you? I'm your friend. The information that I'm giving you or the reason I'm guiding you this way or that way is all correct. I'm your friend. Okay? You can't do that with regular customers, but the same requirement is there. So you have to be able to impact the situation in the way that they perceive the reality of them buying the car. And that's through committing to them. That's through understanding, giving them information, and compelling them to want to work with you. That's building a personal relationship, becoming as intimate as possible with that particular customer so that they feel a connection with you. If they feel the connection, if they feel tied to you, then they're going to buy the car. If they don't feel tied to you, if they don't feel like, then they're probably going to buy the car. They may buy it from you, they may not buy it from you. So again, while the environment has changed from being in-store to online, it doesn't mean that these same customers don't want to feel seen and heard and acknowledged, and you have to be able to listen to these customers, hear what they're saying, and try to create that communication. If they're not buying the car from you, if they don't feel that connection, they're probably still buying the car. So if they physically came into the store and they didn't buy from you, and this is why I say that walk-ins are not leads, then they're still buying the car. They're the most likely people to buy the car. They're just going to buy it somewhere else. It's the connection to you. It's the feeling that they have that understanding and that intimacy which is going to draw them in and make them feel that they want to spend their money with you. And that's important to know. You also have to remember that as a salesperson, that's what they're doing anyway. You're not selling the product, you're selling yourself. You're selling the dealership. That's what they're connecting into. The product's an inanimate object, it's an asset. The way that you interact with the customer, that's what's driving the sale. It's building on that empathy that you have with the customer to get the understanding bidirectionally that you want their business, you're going to work hard for them, you're going to do everything that is important for them, and that in exchange for that, they're going to give you their business. So you're not fighting, the reason I bring all this up is you're not fighting for a lead, and you're not fighting for data, you're fighting for the customer's commitment to you and to the dealership for what it is. So let's talk about a little bit of the communication that you should be having with the customer so that you can understand in a more significant way the kind of communication that you should be looking for to know that this customer is committed to you and that this lead that you're getting is worth actually pursuing. So you want to have clear intent, and I'm using some of our communications here because that's what I have access to. But these could be conversations that could be on the phone, they could be through email, they could be in person, it doesn't matter. It's just to show you what they should look like. But you want to have clear intent, both from you and from the customer. Okay, so when the customer engages with you, they're going to literally tell you what it is that they want to discuss. And if you're listening, then they'll reveal typically exactly what you need to know to tell them. They'll say, I'm looking for this, and I wanted these things, but I can't afford that. Or I need to make sure that my dog fits in the car, and I need these other things. So they're going to precisely tell you what it is that they need for you to sell them. And if you hear that, you need to pull that open. You need to actually expand on that communication with them so that you're able to start engaging with them about more personal things, the reasons why they need those things. The more they invest personally in that conversation, the more they're willing to give you these intimate details about why their needs are whatever they are, then that's the thing that is going to drive them more toward the sale, further down the sales funnel, and they're going to put it closer with you as a dealership and as a salesperson as well. So it's critical to validate their interest while you're going through this process. As they're telling you what it is that they want, you should be identifying that these are the things. Oh yes, I understand that. That makes total sense to me. I had that same issue, or these are the reasons I would look for that as well. Don't use scripts. So scripts will just kill it. The more you step away from the interpersonality with the customer, the more that you depersonalize the communication, the less it's going to tie them to you. For those of you that have had conversations with someone who's just not paying attention, or the old phone trees where you used to call and you'd say, operator, operator, operator. That's not bringing the customer closer to you. It's not motivating them to want to buy from you, from your store, and that's not motivating them to do anything other than stop. It just gets them frustrated. So don't use scripts. Pay attention to what they're asking. Focus on them and what their needs are. And this is why when you start to get into that autopilot mentality, it just doesn't scale into this area. You have to be talking and speaking to them with intent and with clarity, and they should be giving you those things, and that's how you know that they're a lead worth pursuing. If you're not getting that, then, and you can't kind of rip that part of the conversation open, then it may not be a lead that's worth pursuing at that particular moment. So ask specific questions, as we just talked about. Down funnel buyers will specifically mention the things that it is that they're looking for. That's how you know that they're down funnel. That's how you know that they've already done the research. They're there. As they start getting very precise about the vehicle or about the assets that they want on the vehicle, guess what? They're ready to buy. That's why they've done all those things. It's when they're much further back and the questions are much more superficial, or there aren't that many questions, that's when they're not ready to buy. That's when they're just looking around and kicking tires and, can I go for a test drive? There's not really anything there. So you still can invest some time at that point to try to see what it is they're trying to accomplish, timeline that it is for them to accomplish. You can be specific to ask them questions. You want to kind of personalize the interaction again as much as you possibly can. If they open up, then you're golden. If they don't open up, it's probably not a lead that's worth pursuing. Personal connection, and we talked about this through the entire presentation just about. It's imperative that you make your connection personal. You need to be earnest. You need to be earnest in your attempt to assist them, to help them. If they feel like you really want to help them, then they're going to continue to move forward. And you have to put yourself in some of these situations, and it doesn't have to be with cars. Whenever you have someone who's assisting you and you really feel like, wow, this person is listening to me, I really feel like they're actually trying to help me. They kind of know that I may not be ready to do this or do something else right now, but it really feels like this person just wants to help me. This is how you get referrals. This is how you get good reviews. This is how you make sure that the customer is well down funnel and that the customer has a strong interest in purchasing the vehicle, is just simply by truly wanting to help the customer. The guys who just kind of gloss over it and it's like, oh, I can get you that, or let me run over here, I'll check with my manager on these things. I mean, all those things can happen, but if you're not committing to the customer as you get all these different types of leads, then you're not going to move them anywhere. So your conversations, they do really have to be this kind of personal and intimate conversation to be able to make it so that the customer feels fully engaged with you, they feel comfortable with you, they feel comfortable with making the purchase through the dealership. And I've used this word a few times, intimacy, and I just want to define it for you so you understand what it is. It's basically creating a deeper connection with the customer. If you're listening, then they're going to know you're listening. If you're paying attention and regurgitating some of the things that they're asking for, then they're going to acknowledge that you've heard them. And diving further where you're asking specific questions and you're trying to get clarity and you're not offering, you don't have to offer that much. It's more about focusing on them, focusing on the customer and what their needs are, and acknowledging what they are, and promising to bring things back. You're able to draw in much more significantly and actually create this intimacy. And it's that, just like we talked about a friend looking to buy a car from you, your friend's probably going to, you know, as soon as he asks you that he's probably going to buy the car from you, unless he doesn't like you that much. So the reason he's doing that is because he already feels all these things. You're friends. He already feels confident with you. He knows that he trusts you. You've shown him before that you're a good guy or girl. And they have faith that you're there truly to assist them. And I'm sure your demeanor and the way that you act toward them also endorses all of those things. And that's what's selling the car. You just need to get on page for that with all of the other customers that come into the store. So just to kind of come back to a lot of this, you want to be looking at what's my actual closing ratio per lead source. This is the ROI portion of the meeting. Yeah, it's not about how many leads you get. It's about what's the ROI on the leads. What's the total cost versus the revenue of the lead provider that I have per month? And again, it could be that there are certain classifications of lead providers that you need or don't need. And even within those classifications, there may be different vendors that offer the same type of lead, but the one that you have isn't working for you as well. So you just need to be on top of it. And if they all are, then that's great. And then you can start to look to get more leads. What's the revenue per lead, not just the count? The biggest thing that I wanted to kind of make the statement about in this presentation is it's not about getting leads. It's about making sales. And I talked to enough dealers to know that they've lost that mentality. They've forgotten that, oh, the reason I'm doing this whole thing is to make sales, not to buy leads or to have the most leads. There are no dealers out there who go, hey, I'm the best. I have the most leads. I get more leads than anybody. Sell me the sales. Then I'm interested. Tell me you make the most sales. Tell me that you make the most sales from the leads that you get. Tell me that your ROI is high. That's the thing that's most important. And are your tools, the things that you have getting the customer, motivating the customer to move through the process and to get down funnel with you? So anyone who knows me knows that I love coffee. I actually like proper coffee. It has to be espresso, ristretto, in fact, if you wanted to know. Italian ristretto, because I really love coffee. And I'm very passionate about two things. This is the other thing they know, which is I'm very passionate about trying to facilitate in the industry to improve it for both the customers and the dealers to facilitate the car buying process. Both sides, to be successful, will benefit from an easier selling process and a more fluid communication between the two. That's what's going to actually make more sales. So I want to challenge you all today to try to look at this through being hyper-focused on ROI, on the leads that you're getting and the providers that you're using. And I think you'll have much more success. My name's Ted Rubin. I'm the president of ActivEngage. And my question to you is, are you a closer?
Great job. Excellent.